Hello everyone. We have a wonderful treat for you today. Carne adobada, green chili pork. Forget your ham and your turkey and all that stuff you usually make on Christmas. This is a much better, much more delicious meal you can make for a crowd. You just have to sort of prepare in advance. The whole recipe is listed on the website, but basically we're going to make a marinade about 48 hours in advance, and actually since it bakes for about 3 hours, it really needs to be more than that. So let's pretend we are having this on a Saturday night. You ought to start this on a Thursday afternoon, okay? That's basically your timetable. So you're going to start off with making a marinade. You're going to have a rough chopped onion, about 1.5 cups of that, fresh jalapenos. I would use 2 jalapenos depending upon spice. You can leave the seeds in or take them out. I took the seeds out of just one of the 2 jalapenos that I used here. Add those to your onions. Then you're going to add some salt and some Mexican oregano and some ground cumin. And then your canned green chilies. Again, use spicy ones if you want. Use mild ones if you want. It's really up to you and your taste. 2 cloves of garlic. Make sure you peel them. Make sure you smash them. Also mince them up. You can add all of this stuff all to the same pot because it's same bowl. It's going to be blended up before you add it to the meat. For meat, we have 3 pounds of pork shoulder. Now, you can get it with the bone taken out if your butcher will do that for you. If you get it bone in, it's very easy to take the bone out so long as you have a sharp knife. Just make some cuts around and then cut it up into chunks. Alternately, you can use country ribs, which are not actually, there's no rib bones in them. You can use 3 pounds of country ribs and that would work just as well. So take all of your marinade ingredients, put them in a blender. You're going to add 1.5 cups of water. Blend them up. Don't puree them completely. Make them sort of chunky. Add them to your meat. I have this bowl that I have a lid on that I can keep in the fridge. Another thing that works is a big 2-gallon plastic bag. Just make sure it's sealed up good. Put that in the fridge, and 2 days later, continue. Preheat your oven to 325. We're going to go low and slow here. Add your meat and your yummy marinade to a big pot, a Dutch oven. Put that in the oven. And in the meantime, we're going to have some wonderful fresh tortillas. So about an hour before they're done, about 2 hours into cooking, I want you to add flour, salt, shortening. You could also use lard if you have it. Use a pastry blender to get that wonderful and crumbly. Then add some olive oil and some hot water and stir that up. So just stir it pretty much until it sort of comes together. You'll have some loose flour. Don't overwork it. Once it's sort of clumping together and it looks about like this, turn that out onto a surface and basically just start to knead it. I'm going to go into speed vision here. You should end up kneading this about 3 to 4 minutes. Basically, you'll know when it's done because it'll sort of feel tough. It'll come together. Don't overwork it, though. You don't want it to get really, really tough. If it's a little bit shaggy, that's okay. And eventually, you just need to form it into a ball, kind of like this, a nice sort of round ball. And we have to make sure that it rests. So that's why we're actually starting this, a good hour before the meat's done. Put a piece of plastic wrap over top, and you actually want to let this rest room temperature, okay? Usually you'd put dough in the fridge. Don't put this in the fridge. Just put a piece of plastic wrap on top. Make sure that it stays sealed up so that it doesn't dry out. You have to be very careful that this stuff doesn't dry out on you. So in the meantime, while that's resting for its hour, your meat's done. And when it comes out, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to smell beautiful. You got to take some tongs and just sort of shred it up like you would with barbecued pulled pork, okay? Shred it up, stir it up, take those chunks and mix them with the juices and all the fat that's rendered, and it'll look lovely like that. In the meantime, take your dough. You're going to want to work it into kind of a roll. Again, don't overwork it. Just sort of get it where you need to. So I've sped up again here. Work this into kind of a log. You can cut this into 8 kind of like a larger size tortillas, or if you want the street taco size, 12 smaller ones. So in order to do 12, which is what I'm doing here, I'm going to divide my little log into thirds, and then I'm going to take each of those thirds and divide them into quarters. And whenever you're working with one of these pieces of dough, put the other piece back under the plastic. You do not want it to dry out. So we have 1/3 of it here, divide it in half, and then divide those halves into halves. So you have 4 pieces. Once you do it to all 3, you will have 12 little discs. And always, again, when you're working with one, store the others underneath the plastic to ensure nothing dries out. With each disc, you're going to pat it into a little round. We'll go to speed up mode here again. and then basically roll it out. And it's not going to roll out as easy as like biscuit dough or pie dough. It's going to be a little tough. It's going to be a little elastic. You're going to have to work it, okay? Work it sort of in a circle. Try and make it as wide and as thin a circle as possible. And then throw it into a skillet with nothing in it, no grease or anything. I've gone into sort of a speed up mode here, but this shouldn't take long. It should only take about a minute. And basically when you see this blistering, when you see these little bubbles start to turn up, that is when you want to flip it. You can see these bubbles starting to form. So once you see those, very gently flip the thing. There's enough fat in this where it shouldn't stick. And then once you flip it onto the second side, again, wait for the bubbles to form. They'll form even faster on the second side. And once you see that, pull that out. So basically, as each of these is cooking, you should be rolling out the next one. You can't roll them all out in advance. So I'm rolling out the next one while this one's cooking. And when this one's done, I'll throw it between two plates or in one of these little carriers to keep it warm and cook the next one. When they're done, it's time to pull this lovely pork, put it in your tortillas. Obviously, there's all kinds of accoutrement you can use here. You can use crema, you can use sour cream or cheese or pico de gallo or hot sauce if you want it hotter, or fresh onion. Honestly, I think it's perfect just like this. I actually think you should try one alone before you put stuff on it. But then obviously you can put whatever you want on it. It's delicious. Happy holidays.